Do you have to be a good tennis player to be a good tennis coach? I can tell you that intuitive tennis, which is my teaching methodology, would have never been created if I didn't play tennis at the high level. And what was so helpful in developing this teaching methodology, that I could exactly feel what high-level players experience when they go through their various strokes. And it turns out that high-level players are not conscious of several technical elements that occur during all the strokes. And if I didn't play tennis at a high level, there was absolutely no way of me finding out this information. So the fact that high-level players are playing automatic tennis, meaning they're not consciously executing certain technical elements, it doesn't really help me as a coach. I have to be able to teach the proper technique to a student, and this is what led me to do a tremendous amount of research. And what I try to accomplish with my research is find commonalities, things that all high-level players have in common, which I call the technical fundamentals of all strokes. So someone that's not a high-level player could theoretically use my methodology and teach others. And in fact, I teach a lot of coaches. They come to me to improve their own game and also to improve their teaching abilities. So I don't see any reason why someone who's a decent level player, let's say 5.0 and above, shouldn't be able to be a good coach. And there are many examples of coaches who are not very good players who coach some of the greatest players of all time. It turns out that usually these are parents of players. So I'm going to give you some names, and these are incredible players, some of the greatest of all time. So we have Karol Selic, who was Monika Selic's dad. We have Srdjan Ivanišević, who was Goran Ivanišević's dad. We also have Richard Williams, Venus and Serena's dad. And all these players are some of the greatest players of all time. And since tennis is such a unique sport where coaching is actually not allowed, players could easily play matches without a coach. I'm not saying by any means that players shouldn't have a coach. They can benefit tremendously from having a coach. However, it is also true that players can easily play without one. Therefore, when we're talking about coaching at the high level, theoretically, the coach does not need to know how to play tennis in order to be a coach. And there's many examples of this when parents coach their kids to great success. And see, tennis at the high level is quite unique because players play automatically. In other words, they need very little technical work once they reach that high level. It's very small things that need to be corrected, if there needs to be any corrections at all. So most of the work is really mental work. And do you need to be a great player to teach this type of mental work? Well, it sure can help if you used to play tennis, because if you, for example, played at the high level and you're coaching someone who plays at the high level, you can share your experience of playing at that certain level, what goes through a player's mind. And even at the elite level, you can see that often players hire former elite level players because they go through the same experiences, and this can be extremely beneficial to a high level or an elite level player. How about coaching at the junior level and at the recreational level? Well, I already talked about how high level players have automatic strokes, so they don't really think about technique. And you'd be surprised that even some elite level players really don't know much about technique. And some of the greatest players of all time, who shall be unnamed, don't even know what the grips are called. And I know it's hard to believe that some of the greatest players of all time don't really know much about technique, but it is absolute fact, because tennis is an intuitive game where players do not think about anything technical. Now, of course, if these elite players or high-level players go into coaching, they have to familiarize themselves with the technical fundamentals of the game. And if they don't, they're going to have a very difficult time improving their students' game at the junior level or the recreational level. So one extreme is the former professional player who doesn't know anything about technique because their game is intuitive. Now, on the other extreme, we have someone who's incredibly knowledgeable about science, about biomechanics. Maybe these are former scientists or engineers, and they know everything there is to know about the human body and about the tennis strokes. But unfortunately, they never play tennis, or they're very weak players. And as I said in the beginning of the video, experience will always have precedent over technical knowledge. So unfortunately, even though these people have an incredible knowledge about the game, they are going to have a very difficult time translating this into teaching on the tennis court, because they do not know what a high-level stroke feels like. So guys, to answer the question of this video, does a good coach need to be a good tennis player? Not necessarily. Someone who's a decent enough player, let's say a 5.0 level, can be a great coach if they possess a great knowledge of the technical elements of the game and have had a lot of experience improving players' games. As long as they're good enough to rally with their students and feed balls, I don't see any problem with that. However, I will say that the best coaches in the world are ones who were high-level tennis players and also have a vast knowledge about the technical elements of the game, and also have had a lot of experience in helping players get better.